Good, good evening, the world. Good evening, America. Hi, everybody. For me, for everybody, it's good evening now. For us, it's very early in the morning, and I'm very excited to start a session of the Bereshit learning from the Torah, and it's live from Jerusalem, and not only Jerusalem, but also in the United States. We have Rabbi Karmi with us, Rabbi Ingber, that is starting these sessions. And I wanted to open, first of all, with a lot of blessings from Jerusalem, because one of the most important things is to be reunited with Israel and to be part of the Israel nation. So we have tonight another 15 minutes, something very, very exciting that is that will go up. And this is that the Hebrew nation in America is going to put a missile to the moon. Now, it's only going to be the fourth country in the world that is going to bring a missile to the moon. It's very nice, very exciting, but we have one of our great rabbis already in the early 60s. He asked, in the last century, he asked something very interesting. He said, we are trying to bring missiles all around the world to see Mars, to see the sun, to see the moon, to see everything. But the question is, when are we going to check up inside ourselves, inside, to send missiles to the human, to understand what's happening with us? And this is exactly what the Torah is doing. This is exactly what the Bible is teaching us. This is exactly what the words of God, when He is speaking to us through the Bible. And this is why we think it's very, very important today, nowadays, that the words of the Bible, after the Hebrew nation came to the Israel land back, that we're going to spread over all the things that we have. One of the interesting things that we know in our Parsha is, in this week Parsha that we're going to read in another 2 minutes, is that the Hebrew nation did the golden craft. And the question is why the Torah is saying to the world that the Hebrew nation did this sin. And Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, 800 years ago already, is saying that he's teaching us to look on this in this point of view. First of all, we need to know that most of the people of Israel didn't do this golden craft, only 3,000 people. And we know that we had more than 600,000 people that went out from Egypt. So we're speaking about less than 0.5%. But on the other side, we need also to understand that the Hebrew nation have a mission. And the mission is part of the things that they got since first Adam and Abel and Abraham. And the mission is to reunite the people of the world, to listen to the words of God. And this mission that the Hebrew nation have today, after we came back to our homeland, is the mission that we need to take upon ourselves. And even if the Hebrew nation is doing a sin, they're not losing their mission. This is the mission of God. And the mission is to spread the words of God to all of the people of the world, and to do all those missiles, not only to the moon, like we're doing also tonight, another 10 minutes, but also to send the missiles inside ourselves, to learn ourselves, to understand exactly what is happening with us and where we're going. So we are going now to start. I'm very excited because we're going to start now through together with this, with Rabbi Ingber in the United States, that is going to be a partnership with us, with the World Noahide Center in Israel. And we're going to partnership. Rabbi Ingber is going to be, I will say, the main flag in the United States. And we're going to start to organize. In the next coming 15 weeks, we're going to speak about the Genesis book, to start with the Genesis book. And we're going to continue on. Not only that, we're going to do a lot of things. We are very excited. We're going to do conferences in the United States. We're going to come to visit Israel from time to time and to get connected with the Hebrew nation. So we will be reunited, all the world together, under this one umbrella of Noahide people. And we have already a lot of communities around the world. And here we are coming to the United States also to start and to build up this Noahide World Center for everybody there. And Rabbi Ingber, this is your time now. Please take on this mission, and I'm going to be with you, and from time to time also to give part of those lessons. And I'm blessing all of those people who came with us and started this journey. And I'm sure that this journey is going to be very, very productive and very exciting and very inspiring. So blessing from Jerusalem. See you all, and Birkat Hashem Alechem. Shalom, shalom.
This class. Okay, I am about to be introduced. Okay, my lovely assistant,
I'm going
Shiva,
out.
is here. She's going to give me.
Excellent.
Go ahead.
Excellent. So I'm shutting down this myself. He started to speak.
They're introducing me right now on that.
Excellent.
At Noachai
I'm going out, and
okay. So I have the
see you, and I'm going to the Facebook.
1,
Bye.
2,
Thank you.
And she's about to give me the go-ahead. When she does, I will begin, and I will speak about the book of Bereshis, the book of Genesis. This is Sefer Amunah. This is where you learn about Amunah, trusting in Hashem and understanding the fundamental ideas of Jewish thinking. So we're going to go through it. It's going to be very, very exciting. And I think right now I am getting the go-ahead. Okay, I am on. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to our new series on the book of Bereshis, Genesis. All right, so let's jump right in because there's a lot to talk about. And I think they're still introducing me. Is that right, Elishar? Yeah. 1 second. Okay, I think I've been introduced. Okay, so welcome to our series on the book of Genesis. We do a 15-part series on the book of Bereshis, the book of Genesis. Okay. Very, very deep, very, very exciting. And welcome to everyone out there. So,
here, now you're on.
Now I'm on officially. So again, welcome to the 15-part series of the book of Genesis. Now, I got to, of course, in the book of Genesis, you have to give a lot of introduction, okay? Because it is hard to understand this book. It's very hard to understand this book. And we need to understand, as we're entering into the discussion of the Torah, the 5 books of the Torah, we need to understand what the Torah is. What exactly is the Torah, or known as the Bible? Okay, the 5 books of Moses in particular, what is that? Okay, so let me try to explain. It's a very fundamental idea. First of all, the word for the Bible is the Torah. What does the word Torah mean? So in Hebrew, the word Torah is associated with the word Morah. Morah, as you all know, means, or many of you know, means a instructor. Okay? The Torah on the most basic level is the instruction booklet for your life. Okay? They have a story of a rabbi in the 40s. He went and he settled in the land of Israel. At that time, what happened if you came to live in the land of Israel, they used to give you a few different things, very basic. It was very poor at the time. They'd give you a hard bed. They'd give you a pot, a pan, a chair, a table, and they gave him what's like these old Bunsen burners. You know, the burners that you have when you go out to camping. So we give this rabbi the Bunsen burner, the Jewish agency who was helping people with making Aliyah, coming to the land of Israel. And on the Bunsen burner, there is a instruction booklet there. And the rabbi looks at it and he says to them, what is this? So they say, Rabbi, this is an instruction booklet. So he goes, wow, that proves the Torah is true. I said, Rabbi, what are you doing? It's just an instruction book. He says, no, that proves the Torah is true. What do you mean? So let's tell you what I mean. This is a little Bunsen burner, very simple item, how to use it. And yet you give me a 15 15-page manual on how to use this little Bunsen burner. How do you think is it possible that a human being can be born, have a body and soul, put in this complicated world, and have no instruction booklet on how to function? How is that possible? The truth is, if anyone would say that God would create an entity of humanity and not give them an instruction booklet, that would be a cruel God. That would not define the definition of God himself. Because this world is very complicated. Everyone gets an instruction booklet for when you purchase something. You've come into this world with no instruction booklet? Yes, there is. That's the word Torah. Torah is from the word morah, which means an instructor, and the Torah is on its first level, is an instruction booklet on how to live your life successfully, that you can be healthy, happy, wonderful, holy, to live a proper life. That's the basic first level of Torah, but it goes much, much deeper. Let me try to explain this a second here. When a scribe writes a Torah, there are many, many laws in how he has to write the Torah. Okay? Yes, he copies it from an existing Torah or kosher Torah. He writes word by word. He looks inside. And if there is one single, we are having a little technical problem here. I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay. Somehow that keeps coming up. Hopefully we'll take care of that a little bit later. Okay. So now if the scribe is writing the Torah and he has one letter that's off, where the letters touch each other or a letter is smeared or smudged, the whole Torah is invalid. It has not had the holiness of Torah. Now, why not? I know what it's saying. I know the basic idea of what it's saying. And the answer is because that's not what the Torah is. It's not only an instruction booklet where the meanings are sufficient. That's not. It's much, much deeper. Let me explain. In essence, what Torah is the impossible. It's the infinite put into the finite. Okay? Let me share with you a mystical teaching that the sages tell us. And this is a mystical teaching from the Talmud. It says the following story. It says that when Moses went up to Mount Sinai to get the Torah, it says the angels said, the spiritual being said, "What's he doing here? Get him out of here. What's this human being doing amongst us?" So God said to Moshe, he said, this is according to the mystical teaching, God said to Moshe, give them an answer. Tell them why you should get the Torah. Because the angel said, keep the Torah with us. Okay. At that point, Moshe says to God, well, I'm afraid they're going to burn me up with their fiery breath. Okay. So God says, okay, hold on to my throne of glory and give them an answer. Moshe holds on to the throne of glory, and he says to the angels, he goes to the 10 Commandments. He says, first the 10 Commandments says, I am your God that took you out of the land of Egypt. Were you in Egypt? No. Oh, let's see a share. Let's see what. Are you in Egypt? No. Second commandment is, don't worship false gods. Do you live in places where there are idolaters who worship false gods? What does it say? It says, don't swear falsely. Are you in business that you might swear falsely? What's the fourth commandment? Keep the Sabbath. Do you work that you can keep the Sabbath? What's the fifth commandment? Honor your parents. Do you have parents you can honor? And the angels say, wow, you're right. Moshe should get the Torah. Now the question is obvious. The question is, the angels wanted to keep the Torah. That means they knew what was in the Torah, or they wanted otherwise. So they knew what was in the Torah, and they knew the answer. They knew that they didn't have parents to honor. Why did they want the Torah? Makes no sense. And what's this story? Moshe says, I'm afraid they're going to burn me up with their fiery breath. What does that mean? What does that mean? Angels don't brush their teeth? What does it mean? And then God says, hold on to the throne of glory and give him an answer. It's also very, very strange. So let me explain what it means here. What the angels wanted, they wanted what we call in Hebrew, Torah Sanistar, the hidden secrets of the Torah, sometimes called the Kabbalah. What they wanted was, they wanted to understand, they wanted to keep the Torah, the part of it that is the deeper mystical meaning of how the world functions. That's what they said. They said, listen, don't give the Torah. It's so high, it's so holy, it's so infinite that if you give it to a human being, they'll mess it up. Moshe says, I'm afraid they'll burn me with their fiery breath. What is he saying? Moshe's saying, I am afraid that I can't answer them because they are all spiritual. Fire representing the idea of spirituality. Fire is dynamic. It's always moving. It's always shaking. So I'm afraid to answer them because they have fiery breath. They're more spiritual than I am. So God says, no. Hold on to my throne of glory and give him an answer. He holds on to the throne. He says to him, listen, you can't do the Torah. You don't have a body. You don't have parents. You don't have all these things. You can't do the Torah. So why is he holding on to the throne of glory? Because what it's saying is the following. A human being is different than a spiritual force called a malach, an angel. The human being, his soul itself is the highest part of creation. It says in the Kabbalah that his soul comes from right beneath the throne of glory. What does that mean? It means the first beginning of creation, the beginning of any place where God created the first and most important thing in the world was the soul of man. So holding on to the throne of glory means that Moshe is looking at the root of the human being, that they are the first and highest thing. And then they could bring out the Torah by doing all of its details in the physical world. The angels could learn the mystical ideas of Torah, but they can't bring it out into the physical world. Now, according to this, I want to explain to you what Torah really is. And it's very amazing. Imagine like this. Imagine you have absolute truth. And now this absolute truth has different systems, different realities it's revealed in. So if you're an angel, if you're a spiritual force, you understand the Torah in your reality. If you're a human being with hands and function in the physical world, the Torah is relevant and true and absolute truth in your reality too. And that's why there is an amazing teaching the mystics tell us. The mystics say the following. The Kabbalists say the following. They say like this. If you took all the words of the Torah and you would break them up in different combinations, instead of saying, this word, in the beginning God created, you take the word, you would combine the letters a little differently in the same sequence, but different combinations of letters, you would find something fascinating. You would find that the Torah is actually running names of God. It's all different names of God coming out one after another. The deeper level understanding of the Torah is its godliness, its oneness. When you read it as a human being with a body and a soul, then the words combine to create stories, commandments, and sentences. The Torah is not a book. It is the infinite. It is God's thoughts put into the finite. That's why it's a whole different story. And we need this introduction to really get into this book. Otherwise, we're going to misunderstand it. There are a lot of good books in the world. A lot of people write very smart books. This is not a smart book. That's not what it is. This is the infinite put into the finite. That's the first word of the Ten Commandments. It's Anochi, I. God says, I took you out of Egypt. The word Anochi, the sages tell us, is a conjugation. It's a notricon. It's an abbreviation for the following term. Anochi stands for Ana, I. Nafshis, I. God says, I, my soul. Kasavtis, I wrote it. Hivis, and I gave it to you. God said, I wrote myself into the Torah. The Torah is God's thoughts. And whatever level you're understanding it, it's like another layer of clothing that you're wearing. One of the great Hasidic masters gave the analogy. If you go to a king and you hug the king, so you don't say to yourself, is he wearing 5 robes or 4 robes or 3 robes? That's irrelevant. The king is inside the clothing. So too, the Torah is God's thoughts, and he's inside the words of the Torah. And that's why the words of Torah are not just, okay, I have this idea, and I got the basic theme, I got the moral lesson. Every letter, if one letter is written out of place, if one letter is written wrong, if one part of the letter is missing, the whole thing is not good, because the whole thing works from the deepest expression of godliness in the physical form of this writing of the Torah. Fascinating. Okay, so we have any questions on that? I'm happy to take questions on that, but that's an introduction to understand what we're about to do. The mission, if you choose to accept it, is to enter in to the deep understandings of Torah in the book of Genesis, the book of Bereshis, one of the deepest possible understandings we can get. And we're going to try, according to our level, to understand some of it. Okay? So that's my introduction. Let's jump into the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. Now, I have to give one more introduction. So the book of Genesis in particular is very, very difficult to understand, so much so the Talmud forbids you from revealing the secrets of the creation only to one individual who knows and understands on his own. So obviously, we can't reveal all the secrets of creation on Facebook, because that's not one individual, that's very public, and it's not one who understands on his own. So the beginning part of the story of the creation is very, very deep. It is not to be understood in a very superficial way, the way people understand it, and Adam and Eve are frolicking in a garden. It's not like that. We'll understand a little bit about this. They were not physical in the same sense that we are, and the story of the 6 days of creation and what's being created and what's being done is the deepest mystical secrets. So we're going to just try to understand certain things that will be very deep but relevant to what we are able to talk about. So let's start from the beginning, the very beginning. Why? My lovely wife and assistant, there she is. Shall I say hello, everybody? She is. Okay. So now the let's understand from the very beginning. The very beginning is why did God create the world in the first place? We have to understand that. If we don't understand why he created the world, then there's no point. You're not going to be able to make sense of the story. So, and you won't make sense of your life either. So what we're going to do is very briefly. It is discussed in detail in my book. Mark always tells me to push my book, but in my book, With Heavens Kiss the Earth, it is discussed in great detail. I'm going to try to give it to you very briefly right now. No, you don't need the book now. Okay. So anyway, so right now, all right, so why did God create the world? Why did he create the world? What's the purpose? So okay. So now, why did God create the world? Why did he create it? So let's understand. If God did not create the world in this way, I'm sorry, let's go back a step. I'm going to tell you what the Kabbalists say, why God created the world. And to understand this, it's what I'm going to first say is going to be somewhat nonsensical. We have to break it down and understand more deeply. So the Kabbalists say the reason why God created the world was to give us the ultimate and maximum pleasure. That was the reason why he created the world. Now that seems to be very bizarre, because if that's true, then this world does not seem like the ultimate, most maximum pleasure possible. There's suffering, there's pain, there's death. I mean, it doesn't really seem that this would be the ultimate. You know, if you were God and your goal was to create a world with ultimate maximum pleasure, I don't know if this would be it. So let's understand what's more deeply. To get the ultimate and maximum pleasure, you have to ask first, what is the ultimate maximum pleasure? What is it? So on the first level, people like food, they like physical pleasures. Somebody gets a little more spiritual, they like some spiritual pleasures, love, unity, connection. There's a hierarchy of what is true great pleasure. The ultimate pleasure a person can have is experiencing the infinite. It's experiencing God himself. I always tell people, if people go and someone has gone to any moment that you had in your life where you felt totally connected, one with the world. It may have been on a mountaintop, maybe in the Western Wall, it may have been wherever it was. At one moment you felt totally connected. If you take that feeling and you multiply it times 100, wow, multiply times 1,000, multiply times 1,000,000, multiply times infinite. That's as close I can get to explaining what it is to experience something. It's hard to explain, but to get the pleasure of connecting to the infinite, to God himself. Now, if God created you as a robot, he created you, put you in a perfect world, everything was great, no challenges, no decisions, everything was perfect, that would be very nice. But the problem would be that you would feel like a beggar. You'd feel like a person didn't earn it themselves. That's what you would feel like, because you didn't do anything. If you create an entity and you go, here, feel this great pleasure, then great, I feel great, but I'm just a parasite. I didn't do anything. And that's what the great Shla Kodesh, the great Kabbalist reveals to you. He says like this. He says that when God first created the souls, they were all in front of God and they gave tremendous pleasure. But they had one problem. They had something called Nahama Diksufa, which is an Aramaic term meaning bread of shame. It means they did not earn their keep. They didn't earn this pleasure. So in order that a person should get a greater pleasure to experience and to earn it themselves, God had to put us into this world. And he put us into this world where it's very difficult. And you got to choose, you have to make decisions. But what happens is when you choose, you're the one who is actually building yourself now. And understand it more deeply. What it means is that it's not like you did a good thing, now you get a candy. No. What you're choosing in your life when things are pulling you in opposite ways is if you're choosing correctly, you are choosing to be more godlike. When you have that free will choice, you choose to become more godlike. You are creating in yourself the perfection to experience God. There's a spiritual rule, which is that things that are alike in form can experience each other. Okay? If something is totally opposite, they can't experience each other. God is the only entity that's intrinsically perfect. A human being can make himself perfect through his actions. And when he does, he has the ability to experience the ultimate and maximum pleasure. That's in brief. But what that does for us, it shows us the purpose in this world. The purpose in the world is that God wants you to be successful. He wants you to go and to choose to create yourself through your free will actions. And when you do, you will in this world experience him more. You'll have more pleasure, even if things are sometimes difficult in life. A spiritual person will feel connected. And certainly if the person passes away and all the masks and the partitions are removed, they will feel themselves infinite pleasure. Okay, that's the backdrop of the purpose of this world, to get the maximum pleasure through a process of being in this world, having to get there, having to choose. And when I choose, I'm the one who's created the good that I could enjoy. That's the backdrop. Let's put this now into the story of Genesis, the Bereshit. When God first created the world, created existence, the first thing he had to do was to conceal himself. Because what happens is that the infinite is going to subsume the finite and you can't exist. So God concealed himself, so to speak. And he created a reality in the world where there was the potential for evil. There was a potential that his light was, so to speak, hidden. There was a potential that a person could actually do something right or wrong. That's the backdrop to the story of creation. Because in that vacuum is where we have to exist. Because we have to live in this world where there's good and bad. And choose ourselves. So now in the very beginning, God conceals himself and hides himself. The story of creation is the process, the 7 days of creation, the 6 days leading up to the Sabbath, is the days where God begins to fix the world, to remove the hiddenness, and to reveal himself. And every day, one more step. But the goal was not to finish the job. If it was, he would have done it himself. What was the goal? The goal was to get it to the 6th day of creation, okay, leading to the 7th, the completion of it, and let human beings finish the job. And that way, what happens is that we are the ones who earn our connection to him because we did it. And that's the backdrop of the story. The world was not created to be perfect. it was created to be in the perfect balance where a human being could now tilt the scales and finish the job, or as we'll see in the story, do the opposite, and then have to go through more processes till we eventually come to, through our actions, help finish the job. Okay, so that's the backdrop here. That's the understanding of the beginning of creation on day one. So I'm going to go through it a little bit because you'll see right away. There's no way to say that the story of creation is the chronology of what God created. I'll show you why. The first verse of the book of Genesis is Bereshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. The Talmud says, what is the word for heavens? It's shamayim in Hebrew. Shamayim is a conjugation of two words. One is eish and mayim, fire and water. So if the Torah was telling us that in the beginning God created the first thing, the heavens and the earth, that can't be, because fire and water are what make up heaven, right? Eish, mayim, fire, water. That was the first thing that makes up heavens, and that must have existed before. So the story is not coming to tell you, the events of how it was what order was created. It's coming to now start to give us the flow a little bit for what we can talk about on the process of the 6 days of creation leading up to the completion, which is going to hopefully be on the 7th day. Okay. Ayelet asks, where's the word? Right, Eshmayim, right. The shin, the aleph is, Ayelet's asking where the Eish and Mayim, where you see that Shamayim, because that's like the aleph is silent. Eshmayim. So the aleph is silent and Shamayim. So the shin of Mayim is from the Eish. Okay, good. So now, first day, what happens? First day of creation, it says God created light. The Kabbalists tell us this was a supernal light, the light of understanding, light and everything we're going to experience in the future, and God hid it away for the future. Day 2 says he separated the firmament, created the upper waters and the lower waters, creating the rakia, the atmosphere, so to speak. Day 3, it says he brought the waters in which the waters were covering the earth, brought into one spot, okay, and now separated the earth from the water, okay, and now the flowers and the vegetation grew. Day 4, it says, was the planetary systems. Day 5 is the fish and the birds. Day 6 is going to be animals, and what would have maybe been made for day 7, but day 7 God's not going to create because that's going to be the Sabbath. Also, mankind is created on day 7. Okay. Let me explain to you a second why it is that that you have this phenomenon of 6 and 7. Those who've heard me speak before, we talked about this many times. Understand why it's 7 days of the week. Okay, so a book has, I'm saying, any physical item has 6 sides to it, right? Okay, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is a 3-dimensional object that has 6 sides. 6, therefore, is the number of coming of expression. 6 is the number where we start to now spread out to the full expansion of a 3-dimensional reality. But there's a thing inside of it, the 7th, which is the center point that unites it. It makes sense of all the 6 expansions. That is going to be in our story, the Shabbat. Okay? So 6 days of creation. Each one, God is making the world a little bit more closer to the point of revealing himself. The 6th day Adam and Eve are created, and now they have the ability to fix it all up. Now listen to this. God will tell us if they would not have done the sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil on the sixth day, the world would have entered into the Shabbos, the Sabbath, and would have been called the Great Sabbath, Shabbat HaGadol, the ultimate Shabbat. That's what would have happened. 6 days, all they had to do was to manage to not to fall and to go and to not eat this tree of knowledge of good and evil, come into the seventh day, and the world would have come into perfection. When they did not do that, the world fell and reality changed. Even Adam and Eve, what they looked like, changed. Okay, we'll explain that in a few moments, but they even changed. And time changed. There were 6 days of creation, and now every day elongated into 1,000 years. That's why right now we're in the Jewish year 5,779. Okay, we are in what's called the sixth millennium, the sixth day of creation. This will be very deep, and we'll maybe talk about it another time. But every day, time changed, the world changed. Before Adam and Eve had fallen, they could have, in that reality, fixed the world up. We would have come to perfection, and that would have been it. When they fell, all of reality changed. And in one way it was good, because now we're born and we have the ability to go and to earn these things ourselves, right? Otherwise he would have done it. But the Kabbalists tell us all the souls were created in Adam and Eve, so we were all like there, and then the world changed and things fell out. Okay, good. I hope this is making some sense. It's a very deep topic, but we're going to try to get a little bit more understanding in it. All right. So now let me just digress one moment here about what I just said. I said that the world was 5,079 years. Now, this is important, and we have different audiences listening today, and I think it behooves us to actually take a minute and look at this, because this topic, as well as many others, underscore a question of the relationship between Torah and science, okay, the Bible and science. So you have to understand something, and this is what Maimonides writes clearly: there never is an argument between Torah and science. There's only one of two possibilities. Either you don't understand the Torah well enough, or you don't understand the science well enough. But there can't be a contradiction. It's not possible. So this is a little back to understand that. So we don't have any problem. We welcome scientific discoveries. You have to understand science in general. Things change very dramatically, and many of the theories that were 10 years ago are completely obsolete today. Things in science are always changing, and they're finding new discoveries, and there are theories that work, and then they find a contradiction. In the early 1900s, the scientists were about to make a convention celebrating the end of all scientific discovery. They solved everything. And 5 years later, they come out with relativity, and Einstein just flipped the whole thing on its head. So science changes in its search of the depth of the world. Torah, people don't always, based on people say things, or they read the Bible, think they understand, and they might not understand the deeper rationales. So there's a question that always people will say about the age of the universe. The people who call creationists will seem very ignorant, because there seems to be quite a lot of proof that the universe is more than 5,779 years old. There seems to be a lot of scientific proof the world is billions of years old. Now, I have no problem with that. Now, let me give you a few different pieces to understand this. First of all, I'll give you the most basic one that most people have heard, but it's sort of simple, but it makes a lot of sense. When we say 5,779 years, that is not from the creation of the universe. It is the creation of Adam and Eve. It might not even be the creation of entities that may have pre-existed Adam and Eve. There's some commentaries that talk about that. It could have been there's other entities that didn't have the soul that Adam and Eve had. But be that as it may, we're saying that 5,779 years is from the creation of the first Homo sapiens, that we call them people who had souls, called Adam and Eve. Okay, Adam v'Chava. Okay, so therefore, being that that's the case, there's really no contradiction at all, because if you think about it, who said that before the creation of Adam and Eve, the days were 24-hour days? That's the simple explanation. As a matter of fact, as we define days, you need a sun, and the sun's created on the fourth day of creation. So it's very simple to go and to say that, very simple to say that in the beginning, the day, the time was not a 24-hour day, and that starts from Adam. So that's not a contradiction at all. That's one answer. I'll give you two other ones, but you have to understand that whenever you come to what's a seeming contradiction, you need to understand it more deeply. The second idea that we say is that there's a book out by Dr. Gerald Schroeder. It's a worthwhile read, called Genesis and the Big Bang. He there goes. I'm not saying it's correct or not correct, but it's a very fascinating idea that he says there. He actually shows there, based on the theory of relativity, that he tries to make a mathematical calculation. What it's a heavy gravitational pull, then time slows down. So he wants to claim that if you would calculate the time from outside of the universe, the edge of the universe, as he calls it, that gravitational pull will be so great that the 15 billion years in his calculation, when time is slowed down, translates into 6 days. That's, you can look in the book and he goes through the mathematical calculations, and that may be correct. Once we know relativity, well, okay, so it could be that from the 6 days of creation comes from a different relative framework. The third answer is a fascinating answer. This is a book brought in a very ancient Kabbalistic work. So this third answer I'm going to share with you about the age of the universe goes way back, when nobody was saying the world was billions of years old. But in this ancient Kabbalistic text, that in the ancient Kabbalistic text brings this question. I had a question posted here on YouTube. That is there a connection between the six sides and the Star of David? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. It definitely is a connection between that, in terms of how things are structured. Very much so. I can't get into the whole series of how this works, but yes, there's the 6 sides, and then there's the 7th. And then there's what's called we talk in Jewish terms about the number 10 as being the whole cycle. And then there is the 3 that are the mind of the lower 7. So yes, the answer is to your question. Whoever asked that question is correct. There is a connection between the 6-sided Magen David, and the idea of six being an extrapolation and expression of reality. Okay, now, which is also why, as an aside, why there were 600,000 Jews when they left the land of Egypt. It represented the idea of the nation coming to its full expression in this world. All right, good. So I was going to say the third answer of the age of the universe. And this is, again, it's amazing because this is brought in a Kabbalistic text. So in the 1800s, people were going crazy. They said, the world, when they started saying that world was older, and they were dogmatists who were saying, no, it can't be. This writing here is thousands of years old. It's brought in ancient Kabbalistic work. It says the following. It says that when God created the universe, so in the beginning, before even the story of Bereshit, he created worlds that he created and he destroyed. That means a very, very deep topic. It's a little bit what I hinted at you before of this creating of a hiddenness in the world. And according to that calculation, it says that he created 7 cycles of 7,000 years, and that we're in the 6th cycle now. So there were 6 cycles of 7,000 years, according to this, that preceded our time. Okay, I'll catch the numbers a second. But it says in this ancient text that that time was not based on our time, that was based on a different system. That was a system based on God's time, so to speak, where the verse in Psalm says, one day to you, God, is like 1,000 years to us. So this, according to that calculation, if you do the math of 42,000 years, which every day is now 1,000 years, in that calculation, you'll come to over 15 billion years. Mind-boggling. So again, according to that calculation, in this ancient Kabbalistic text has been recorded for thousands of years already, it says that according to that calculation, the universe would be billions of years old. Fascinating. Okay, good. Let's get back to our story. So where we are in Genesis right now is we've said, let's just summarize where we are. We said that God's creating a world, and the purpose is that we can go and earn our connection. He created a concealment, created this world, 6 days of creation. Everything is sort of being put in line, and it's all being prepared like a feast, being prepared for the main character at the end. Who's the main character? Humanity. Now, I gotta just preface this, because this does not mean that humanity, we're created, therefore we can go and do whatever we want to do. That's completely incorrect. The verse in the Torah says the text says that God says you control the world, you master the world. But it uses a very funny term. It uses a term that could imply mastery or descent. And the sages tell us because human beings, if they use the world properly, they elevate the entire world. But if they don't, they've taken their function and they've lowered the entire system. Okay? So it's not about, you can't abuse the world. As human beings, the goal is take the things that were created in the 6 days of creation and elevate them now and bring them to creation. That's why there's an amazing psalm that was written by Adam. Adam and Eve, Adam wrote a psalm. Okay, we sing it on every Friday night. It was recorded to us by King David, but it was originally written by Adam. And it starts out, it says, L'chun ran el Hashem. Come, let us sing praise to God. Nariel tzur We will go and we will call out to the source of our redemption. That line was written by Adam when he was created. He looked at the creation and he said, wow, come, let us all together complete the mission of this world. And that was really what he was supposed to do, get the whole world to go and to come to its function. Okay.
Do you see the question?
We had a question here. On the 6 days of creation, on the 6th day of creation, God ended it by saying something about, say, day and night ended the 2nd day, but he did not write that about the 7th day. I'm not sure I understand the question. I think the question is, at the end of every day, God said it was he saw what he created and it was good. I'm not sure what the question is. I'm sorry. 6th day, God ended it by saying something about day and night ended the 2nd day. He did not write that about the 7th day. I'm not sure I got the question. Maybe you try to repost it. I don't think I understood the question. In the sequence of the events, there are 6 days of creation. The 7th day is not a day of creation. The 7th day completes it because right now the 7th day is a day of completion. People sort of misunderstand. They talk about a day of rest. God didn't need to rest. That's not what it means. But it means that the 6 days, there were creative actions to fix the world. And on the 7th day, there was the energy that you could feel that completion come into the world. Okay, that's the nature of the Sabbath, is to feel that you don't have any place to go. You're complete in all your actions. So the 7th day is not a day of creation. The 6 days are the days of creation. The 7th day being the completion of the creation by God not creating anything and saying what the world needs now is what's called menucha, is stillness, because now it's come to its point. Okay, may that was the question. I hope it was. I hope I answered it. Okay. Now, back to the story of Adam and Eve. All right, so Adam and Eve now have this tremendous task to finish the world. Now, let's talk about the creation of Adam and Eve first for a second, because when you read the text, it's really not so clear how they were created. And also, many of you out there who are reading in English will be biased, because sometimes you get translations that are just wrong. And so please be careful. Please use authentic translations. But even in our authentic translation of the Torah, the Hebrew language includes all the possibilities, which is not true in other languages. In other languages, it's going to say one expression of the idea. The Hebrew language is much deeper. So when we talk about Adam and Eve, the creation of Adam and Eve, it says that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. That's, I think, how the English usually translates it. In the Hebrew, it's not so simple. There's an aspect of the rib. It's an aspect of coming from the rib, which the sages teach us means that a woman has a quality of being modest. And that's a very, although in America, unfortunately, it's not a very celebrated quality. In the Jewish world, that's a big, big thing. So the rib has that quality. The rib you can kind of see, but you can't really. You can see a person's rib, but you can't really see it. It's hidden. So one aspect of the creation of the woman was the quality was given to her of the rib, representing the idea of being modest, okay, being not having to push herself in a way that's unbecoming for anyone, but she's got an extra quality of that. Okay, but the other text says that we're created from the tsela. Tsela Ribah in Hebrew doesn't only mean rib, it also means from a side. And this is the deeper teaching that Adam and Eve were created back to back. And that's a very, very deep understanding. Back to back means that you are whole, you're one entity, okay? And you're back to back. The problem with being back to back is although you're one, you cannot be that way from your own free volition, okay? You can't bring yourself together. The couple is one here, but they can't really unite. They're protecting, you gotta watch your back. Somebody can hurt you, and that's your danger spot. Okay, so they're back to back means that they right now they're still connected, their backs are protected, but they don't have the ability now to be freely to come together through their own free will and truly unite. That's the function of the splitting of Adam and Eve. It's for now to have the couple becoming truly one through their actions and through their unity. Okay, that's a very, very deep concept, and it affects things in the deeper realms too. Okay, so Adam and Eve now are being created, and they have one commandment. If they get this right, the world, as I said, will go into the great Sabbath. If they get it wrong, reality is going to change. Okay? Now, it seems fairly simple. Don't eat this fruit. But it's really not. Let me try to explain this in a few different ways. Things are very, very deep to try to understand a little bit. First question is, why in the world would Adam and Eve go, and what's their rationalization why they would eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil if God said not to? Why do it? So first you understand what the tree is. It's not called the tree of evil. It's not called that. It's called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's a world where good and evil are mixed up. It's our world. We live in this world today. We live in a world where good and evil are combined. Like a person does an act, is an act of charity, it's a good act, but he's got bad intention. He feels haughty, he feels proud. You meet a person who's good, and they got some bad in them. Bad got good in them. In this world, very often things are not clear. Things are confused. The tree of knowledge, good and evil, was entering into a world of confusion. It was entering into a world where good and evil would be mixed together, and it wouldn't be clear. So why in the world would Adam and Eve want to go into that? Why do they want to? So the sages tell us the reason why they wanted to go into that was because they said the following. God has put us into this spiritual world. The Garden of Eden was a spiritual dimension. Adam and Eve were spiritual beings. And this is really easy. We can do this commandment very easily. We just don't eat this tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then we'll be doing the commandment God gave us. But wouldn't it be better if we ate from this tree of knowledge of good and evil, which means we would enter into this reality where good and evil are mixed up, and we would still choose good? Wouldn't that be greater? See, God didn't want to test us. He didn't want to put us into that situation. But wouldn't it be better if we did do that? If we did enter into that world, but still we wanted to go and only have good, we would really show who we are. We would truly earn our connection. And the person that's cloistered in some place and never sees anything bad, okay, it's a great thing, but he was never tempted. Imagine how much greater it is if he'd be tempted by all these things. And no, I don't want that. I want something spiritual and holy. That's the rationalization that Adam and Eve had. Okay? Now, what happens now is that in that backdrop, the snake is going to go and entice them to do it. Now, I got to explain the snake here because there's so many fundamental concepts here. The snake and the powers of evil have none of their own control. Okay? This is a philosophical issue for all nations of the world, try to struggle with this, and they have ideas that we say are very problematic. To give evil any of its own power is a certain level of idolatry, because now something has its own power. We don't believe that. What's the truth? The truth is like this. Let me explain to you the force of evil for a minute to understand what the snake is going to do. This is how it says in the Kabbalah, it says in the Zohar, it says the following. It gives the analogy of a king, and he has a son, the prince. He wants now to go and to teach his son morality and teach him how to be a good person. Time comes, the son is grown up, he's about to go out in the world, and what happens is he wants to see if the son is really arrived at this state of being a good human being. And not only that, the test itself, if he's able to do it, will bring out that he's a great person if he's successful. So the king goes and he hires a harlot. And he says to the harlot, your job is to test my son and to see if you could seduce him. And then we will see if he was successful and he'll become the great person that he could be. Now, when the harlot is trying to seduce the son, the whole time she's hoping he says no. But she's got to work as hard as she can to do her job because she's employed by the king. That's the analogy that it says in the Kabbalah about the force of evil. It's called in Hebrew the Satan. You call it English Satan, Satan. And that's the function of how the Nachash was a vehicle to go and to bring about this challenge. The Nachash chose to have the power of the negativity to go and to be the emissary to bring about this negativity. So what was the test? The test was, it says that first Adam wanted Eve to not only not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, he felt that she needed to have a distance from it, that nothing should happen. So he told her, you can't even touch it. It says the snake pushed her into the tree. She touched the tree and said, you see, you didn't die. You touched the tree. God said you would die. You didn't die. So just like you didn't die when you touched it, you didn't die when you would eat it. That's obviously a sort of a basic level of understanding. It's much deeper than that. Touching the tree of knowledge means to think about it, means to contemplate it. When a person, goes into a world of evil, first thing is he starts thinking about it, starts saying what's good, what's bad. He gets into this philosophy that could become dangerous in his mind. So Eve, whatever it means with Chava, she was entered into this discussion of like, wow, contemplate it, touch it. Maybe you should go further. What does the snake say that entices Adam and Eve to go and to partake of this tree of good and evil? It's a very amazing thing. It says that he said to him, if you eat this tree, you'll be like God. And that's a very misleading thing, because in our lives we strive to be like God. We do. We want to be God-like. But there's a different relationship. When you say, I receive from God, that means I am connected to him. I receive from him, with. It's a relationship where I'm not a separate entity. The statement of being like God was a very dangerous move. And it talks to a person, it speaks to a person. Because every human being has a certain place they don't have to be subservient to other people. So what happened was the snake said, okay, listen, you could be God, you could be like God. He ate this tree when he created the world too. You see, even though I told you in the beginning that there's a rationalization why they thought they should do this. It's good to enter into the world of evil. But at the same time, in the taking of this tree of knowledge of good and evil and entering this world of confusion, what happened was there was all the possible roots of all the sins of the world were there. It says she saw the tree, it was desirous, there was desire. Okay, they eat the tree to bring death into the world, there's murder. Okay, they try to be like God, this is idolatry. Those are the three cardinal sins, right? Idolatry, illicit relations, and murder. And the sages tell us that it was included in this act. So although they had a rationalization, wow, we're going to serve God better, there was an enticement. There was it looked pleasing, it looked desirous to them. It brought them in. And what happened was, although they believed they were going to eat this fruit, which the idea of eating, even though it wasn't a physical fruit like we talk about it, it's a tree, but it's not physical in that sense. It's a much deeper reality. By ingesting, when you eat food, it becomes part of you. What it means that they put the tree of knowledge of good and evil inside of them means that they took that reality and they entered into it. And once they did, they sunk very, very fast. They believed that they were going to go into this world of good and evil and pull out the good, but they were wrong. And the minute they did that, they fell. And they fell into the world that we live in today. We live in a world where it's good and evil are all mixed up. And now we're literally placed in that reality. Before that, the world was truth or nothing. The world of Adam and Eve originally was a world of clarity. It was, you saw it was true or it didn't exist. Now it was relative. It's good, it's bad. How good, how bad? It's the world that we're in today. And once that happened, they changed. They physically changed. Their spiritual nature dropped. The Kabbalists say to a certain degree they died. Why? Because death means a separating of body and soul. And although they still lived, a large part of their souls separated from them. And they were only connected in a certain way. And that's one of the things that we do. It says that, when the Jews go and we have the Havdalah service, we separate the Sabbath to the week. We light a candle, and at a certain point we look at the candle. And we see separating dark and light. We see the dark and the light in our hands, that God separated between dark and darkness and light. But it says also, the Kabbalists say we look at our fingernails and we think of Adam and Eve. Why? Because the beginning of creation, before they sinned in the sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it says they were spiritual beings. They were like these souls that were exuding from the body. And of course they weren't like literally fingernails, but they were translucent in the sense that their souls were overpowering their bodies. You would see them, they were like light. They were spiritual beings. The text says that after the sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the world became mixed up, God created them kosnos, or he created them coats of leather, clothing. There's an amazing thing. In the Hebrew language, the word or has two meanings. When it's written in one way with an aleph, it means light. When it's written or with an ayin, another word that letters somewhat interchangeable, it means flesh. And the deeper meaning is, in the beginning, they had clothes of light. But once they sunk down, they came into a physical world, they became more corporal. They now entered into this world of good and evil. And that's the world we live in today. The world we live in today is, our job is different. The 6 days of creation are now 6,000 years. We'll explain this more next time. And lead into the great Sabbath, the 7th millennium. But right now, we are doing the job Adam and Eve had to do in the beginning. But they did it in this pristine spiritual world of the Garden of Eden. Once they entered into the place they entered, where good and evil were mixed up, that becomes a reality of the world we're in. We're now fighting the same battles, trying to fix up the same thing, but in a much more corporal and physical challenge. But the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is we will get there by hook or crook, as we will describe and discuss in our next session. And we'll see a little bit more next time, the ideas of Adam and Eve, the changes that happened to them, changes that happened to the world, and how that affects us. So great being with you. Let me see if we have a couple of questions that I can maybe get before.
Why did God even put the forbidden tree into Eden?
So the question we ask is, why did God put the forbidden tree into Eden in the first place? Okay, because very, very good question. Very, very good question. Very deep question. The idea is like this. At some point, let me ask your question a little bit differently to understand. It's a very deep question. Why did God create evil? Why do you create evil at all? And the answer is very, very deep. It's because it's only when there's evil and then it's removed, will you experience and understand the good. God's good is infinite. You got no way to handle it. Now there's a world where it looks like there's other powers. It looks like there's bad. It looks like this. And at a certain point, when that becomes removed, your understanding and your experience of good is infinitely times greater. Like an analogy of a person, never worked a day in their life. You have a day off. You don't really know what it is, So the experience of good in this world requires that God first put us in the world where there's evil, and then when it gets removed, you understand and experience the good in a completely different level. The tree of knowledge of good and evil represents the process of there still being evil in the world that has to be rectified. The tree of knowledge of good and evil will be rectified. It will be connected to the tree of life eventually. That's when the evil flips to good. But the stage of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden was still a world that had good and evil in it, and their job was to desist, stay away from the evil, and the transfusion would have happened, where then that could have been elevated too. So the tree is there because there still is evil in the world, with the function that human beings overcome it. Okay, somebody asked me the question before, so I didn't get exactly the language of the question, but they asked me the question about God, day 1, day 2, day 3, and in each day it says God saw it was good, right? Except for the second day, for various reasons, because second day there was splitting of the upper waters and lower waters, that could be dissension, and that's not good. Okay, maybe the job wasn't finished. The third day says it was good 2 times, but in all 6 days of creation it says it was good, essentially. The last day, the 6th day of creation, it says God saw it was very good. What's very good? So the sages tell us an amazing thing. They say good is the good inclination. Very good is the evil inclination. What does that mean? It means that good is one level, but you will experience the good that much greater when you experience it by overcoming the negative. Like anything in life, a person goes and does a job. If you didn't work at it, you don't experience it. You don't have no connection. You don't appreciate it. You didn't do it. So the experience of the good is by overcoming the evil. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is in the creation. It goes down to the place where there still needs to be some fixing of the universe. And that's what they were supposed to do by desisting from it. They were doing other things also. The Kabbalists talk about things that they were doing positive. But the thing they had to stay away was stay with the tree of knowledge of good and evil and not enter into it and give it thereby its validity, which once they ate it, once they looked at it, sucked them in and overcame them. So I hope we answered that. Okay, Rabbi Goldberg said correct, to give them free choice. That's exactly what we just explained, and that's correct. All right, beautiful, guys. So there's a lot to talk about. Join us next week. Next week, please join us again at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Rabbi Goldberg is here at 4:30 Israel time. All right, good for you, Rabbi Goldberg. He's already starting his learning. He's preparing for the early morning prayers. So next week, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, we'll go to class 2 on the book of Genesis. See you then. All the best. Bye.